All right, so we're 6 months away from early National Signing Day. Right now, Miami has the 37th ranked class in the country for 2023. So what's it going to take to get Miami into that top 10 that we all want to be in? Can we reestablish what Howard Schnellenberger used to call the state of Miami?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, your host. I'm a University of Miami alumnus and longtime South Florida sports radio vet, including pregame and postgame for the Miami Hurricanes. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen every day. We're available free wherever you get your pods, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, and we are also available free on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button. I have the pleasure of bringing in an absolute legend when it comes to the recruiting scene, when it comes to covering high school sports. Nobody on planet Earth can speak to the local recruiting efforts from Cristobal better than our guest today, Larry Blustein, the man, the myth, the legend, who hosts the awesome South Florida High School Sports Show on 560 WQAM, part of the Odyssey family every single week. My boy Blue, how you doing?
Doing great, Alex. Thanks so much for having us in. And, this for us starts a busy time of year. Everybody thinks that during the season is the pinnacle of high school football and recruiting, but it's not. It's the summer camps. This is when the kids start going by caravan to all these different schools and checking out. Not only that, it gives them, the college coaches, more time to spend with them, because during the spring, the college spring, when the kids went up, the coaches had their own things to worry about. They had to get their own teams. And then during the high school spring, the high school kids pretty much had to take center stage. And, they had a lot of things that they had to take care of, a lot of priorities. So this is a time now where it's summertime, and the high school football coaches, the players, and the college coaches get an opportunity to kind of kick back and host these camps and these little combine situations and 7-on-7s. Kids get a chance to mix with players from all over the country. And this is really, and for me to go to a lot of these events, and I will, with the Miami Hurricanes, definitely I'll be out there 3, 4, maybe even 5 times with the Legends evening. So I'm excited. This keeps me going, keeps me out of trouble, keeps me on the road.
And so I quoted the Howard Schnellenberger, may he rest in peace, by the way. He really revolutionized recruiting, not just at the University of Miami. I think he revolutionized recruiting around the country, because eventually everyone else figured out there's a lot of talent down there. There's a lot of talent. He drew that line like under Orlando and called everything in South Florida the state of Miami, is what he referred to it as. And for a long time, Jimmy Johnson, Dennis Erickson, like, they really had this area on lockdown. But then eventually, in the recent era, more and more teams from the SEC, Florida State, of course, recruits heavily down here, Florida as well, Big Ten schools. We've seen, and I know we can't keep everybody in the orange and green. There's not enough scholarships to go around, of course. But I think we've seen far too many of the absolute blue chippers, too many of the 5 stars and the 4 stars leave the area. I know Mario Cristobal's got a great recruiting track record, and he is always grinding. Blue, over the past 6 months since Mario arrived here, what have you been seeing from him in that community, and can he start to lock down the state of Miami a little bit more?
Well, it's going to take time, obviously. You can come in and, with all the bravado in the world and tell everybody what you're going to do, but they still remember that University of Miami, as you mentioned, has been down for a while, a lot of 7-6 seasons. And, even though as fans, we all want to say, oh, okay, things are going to change overnight, they just don't, and especially because he's been far removed. He's been out on the West Coast. So it's going to take time for a lot of these high school coaches to, and remember, high school coaches are influential in the recruiting process, because while they won't make a commitment and tell the kids to go here or there, they steer them. If there's a 7-on-7 or a camp, they may include Miami now. Before maybe they would skip Miami and say, well, you know what, on this date we have Florida and we have Florida State and Miami. Florida and Florida State are on the upswing. Let's skip Miami. But what he's doing now, he's trying to build a winner. So that all takes care of itself. So if you start winning, kids are going to gravitate towards you. And that's the name of the game. You could have all the facilities you want. You could have all the camps and the combines and, have all the Ed Reeds and everybody on campus. But at the end of the day, if you are 7-6, you're going to look at as just like another program. So that's what he's out to do, portal wise, trying to get a good mix of kids to develop that are high school freshmen, which is everybody's aim. But in this day and age, it's not a reality. You don't really now with the portal and kids coming in here that as juniors and some kids who are graduated and coming in here for their final year to try to infuse the program, not just Miami, but everywhere. So I think he's moving towards that really slowly. And I think it's going to happen because upgrade of facilities. And, when I sat down to talk to him a couple of weeks ago, that was the one thing I played the naysayer. I was the guy who said, listen, back in the day when you guys were kicking butt and USC was kicking butt, you had the two worst weight training programs in the country. Your weight rooms were awful. Your facilities were archaic at best. And he said to me, Blue, things have changed. Now kids want the bells and whistles. Now kids want all this stuff. And that was part of the reason why he did come back. Sure. Phil Knight had an open checkbook. University of Oregon and some of the other programs that courted him had a lot of money to throw his way. But coming back and going to a school that you attended, have 2 degrees from, having an education that, he is a blueprint because of the fact that he comes back not only as a tremendous coach, but somebody who was the epitome of a student athlete. And that's what he's trying to get. And as you know, as a son of 2 educators, there's a balance. And that's what Miami's always been able to create, even during the years that they were, running roughshod on everybody. They would graduate their players. And that's the thing. They want to get student athletes that are going to uphold the program and be proud to wear the orange and green. So, yeah, he's moving in that direction. And I think it's a positive direction. And as you mentioned, the irony of it all is 5 years ago, we couldn't pay assistant coaches. Now we're not only paying assistant coaches, but we have $100 million facility on the board. So, yeah, things have changed. I think the big key was getting an athletic director that understands the culture of NCAA athletics, college athletics. So, yeah, I think that, definitely Miami's going to be in the mix for a lot of kids, but you have to win.
And a quick side story. I'm not sure if I've told this story on this show. And you mentioned Mario Cristobal being the epitome of a student athlete when he was at the U. My father taught him statistics. My father is a professor still to this day at the University of Miami, and he had Mario in a couple of his classes. And the first thing, when Miami hired Cristobal back in December, the first thing my father said to me was, hell of a student. Straight A student. He even brought up, I don't want to throw any shade at anybody, but he brought up, Mario was getting better grades than most of the quarterbacks that my father has taught over the years. I know a lot of people think, hey, it's great to have smart quarterbacks, straight A students. Cristobal was the one getting more straight A's than most of the people he ever taught. Right. Now, something on Miami's roster for this coming season, Blue, and we're going to get more into prospects here with Larry Blustein in a bit, but for Miami to have a chance to do something special, even in year 1 under Mario, to compete to win the ACC, of course, you've got to have a quarterback. I think Miami has a quarterback. You think Miami has a quarterback. In fact, Larry Blustein was singing the praises of Tyler Van Dyke before I jumped on the bandwagon, long before he came the starter. I was always more of a Jake Garcia guy. He's going to have his time, I believe. But Blue was more of a Tyler Van Dyke guy. And, Tyler Van Dyke gets the spotlight earlier. One of the common questions, Blue, I get from our listeners is, and I will bring this up, Mel Kiper has projected TVD to be the 12th overall pick in this coming NFL draft 2023. Tyler Van Dyke is appearing on some of the short lists for the Heisman Trophy this coming year, so he's getting a lot of preseason love. But my listeners will commonly ask me, but wait, how much is he really going to be able to shine this year when Mario Cristobal is a trenches guy, a run first type of guy. Josh Gaddis had a run first offense in Michigan. But I felt with the Gaddis thing, Blue, that was more him tailoring the offense to his personnel. He didn't have a quarterback like Tyler Van Dyke. So what do you expect TVD to look like in that Josh Gaddis, Mario Cristobal offense?
And it's funny you bring that up because during the spring, had an opportunity to see a lot of the University of Miami coaches out at spring games, at practices and such. And Coach Gaddis was one of the guys that you repeatedly saw. What they're doing is they're trying to find that number one receiver. They had it in Rambo last year. They had it in Osborne the year before. Right now, they don't have that number one guy. And, talking to our good old friend, John Michaels, he says, is it necessary to have a one? I think it is, because
I think it is too.
You need somebody, because right now Miami's running back room is as deep as it's been for a long, long time. You have marquee backs at every, you still have Thad Franklin. You have an incoming freshman that is getting praise from everybody in the world. You still have Chaney. You still have Rooster coming back. And then obviously you have Parrish, who Miami tried to get right out of high school. He went to Ole Miss. So running game wise, they're going to be fine. Offensive line has improved quite a bit. They're going to add depth through the portal. But as you mentioned, for DVD to be able to get passing, he's going to have a passing game. And the way that they did last year, if you remember, that they stretched the field quite a bit with Rambo. He was catching 10, 11 passes a game. And then that opened things up for your slot kids like Restrepo and Brashard Smith and whoever else is Harley last year. But what's going to happen, I think, if you don't get that number one guy, I know that they have a lot of kids targeted in this portal, but if they don't, you have a key factor, a guy who may be one of their best football players on the team, and that's Will Mallory. The thing about Will Mallory is that he hasn't been healthy, but you and I saw that some of Will's best plays have been called back. He had a 76-yarder, an 81-yarder call back. He showed his speed. I mean, this is a guy that can open up the offense just like a number one receiver, because he's elusive. He's not going to get a cornerback coverage. He's going to get over the top safety and maybe even a linebacker to go with him, which he'll just murder. So that's what I'm saying. So if you don't get that number one, and I know a lot of the guys have been looking for that guy that may not be able to come in and may not be available. I think if you stepped it up, and I think Gaddis, just like anybody else, if you have an opportunity, and you mentioned it, you tailor your offense for what you have. And Coach Gaddis is a very intelligent guy, and he understands that, Mario likes to pound the ball, but at the same time, you have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So you utilize both. I don't think there's going to be a problem. I think Van Dyke is going to be what he was last year. He may not throw for 400 yards every game, but you know what? You take a 275 to 300-yard performance and 175 to 200-yard rushing, and you have 500 yards of offense, and you're in basically every game. So, I don't think there's going to be a problem, but you got to find that guy, and you got to hope that Will Mallory stays healthy.
We're going to tackle coming up here one of the biggest and best recruiting questions of the week, and that's on the future outlook at the cornerback position. But Blue brings up number one receiver. My number one option is always Built Bar. Guys, we've been asking, and Built has delivered. Built granola bars are here. Oh, I love these. Built granola bars come in 3 unbelievable flavors: chocolate peanut butter, chocolate coconut, and white chocolate berry. Do you want to try all 3 flavors? Yeah, you can get a mixed box at Built.com right now. These are so different from the bars and puffs. Built granola bars, they're loaded with granola. They're the perfect combination of crunch and chewiness. But just like the bars and puffs, these babies are packed with protein, covered with 100% real chocolate. Oh, yeah. With 150 calories only, 15 grams of protein, only 4 grams of sugar, Built granola bars will change your world. Built has cracked the code to better granola. They're the perfect healthy snack, guys, to pack in your lunch, take on the road, eat as a snack. And they're made with collagen protein. Your body absorbs that more efficiently and provides you with tons of health benefits. So if you've been waiting for a healthy and delicious granola bar to hit the market, This is your time, friends. Head to Built.com right now to get the Built granola bars. 3 delicious flavors to try: chocolate peanut butter, chocolate coconut, and white chocolate berry. Do not miss out. You've got to get yours today. Go to Built.com to get Built granola bars right now. Go to Built.com, use our promo code LOCKED15, and they'll give you 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Hey, friends, we have an important favor to ask you. We put together a survey so we can learn more about our listeners here to Locked On and make your favorite Locked On podcast even better, okay? So this is your opportunity to tell us what you like and don't like about Locked On Podcasts. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey right now to get started. It's not going to take very long, and everyone that completes a survey can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. You can watch the U play in person if you win. To take our audience survey, go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. Thanks for your help. Alex Donno alongside Larry Blustein, who is one of the top recruiting analysts in the entire country, especially when you're talking about the South Florida area. So, Blue, we had a question earlier this week that you can help me tackle here. A listener asked us about cornerbacks, right, for the class of 2023. We don't have any committed at the moment. Miami has 29 offers out. Now, I think in order to understand the context of 2023, we also have to remember the younger players on the roster and the ones that Miami just brought in for 2022. I mean, Miami got some good ones in the 2022 class. Kamari Rogers, Chris Graves, Jaden Harris, Daryl Porter came in the transfer portal. He's got a lot of eligibility. I see Miami is in the mix, Blue, for a couple of the top corners in the country who are considered to have warm interest in Miami. Cormani McClain, 5-star. He's the number 1 guy in the country, but Miami is considered in the mix for him. And a local guy, listen, I'd love to start getting more players from American Heritage. Damari Brown from American Heritage is in that mix. How much do you think Miami needs at corner in the next class, and how many do you think they'll get?
Well, yeah, the need is always there. It's a pressing need. You always want to keep your cupboard stocked with players, especially at that position, a vital position. And to me, Cormani McClain, one of the top players, obviously, as you mentioned, out of Lake Gibson High School in Lakeland, a kid that I had an opportunity to watch several times last offseason. Very rangy, quick, has got long arms. The kid's the real deal. And the kid Brown is obviously somebody who came on strong last year, has showed in the offseason, grew a lot, quick, strong, a weight room guy, somebody who understands the game, somebody who would be a huge asset to Miami. So obviously those two guys, along with some of the kids that came, and to me, Daryl Porter Jr. is a guy who came out of Heritage, went to West Virginia, and then came back and saw him during the spring. I went to the spring game and watched him there. I know his dad real well, covered his dad at St. Thomas before his dad went to Boston College, played with the Dolphins and Bills for a lot of years. Very tenacious kid. Somebody who's going to really add depth and frontline play to a position that is pretty strong. Miami secondary has got a lot of kids that will contribute, but they need depth. And that's why at any position you want to continue. Quarterback you have right now, arguably 2 or 3 top flight quarterbacks nationally, but you want to add somebody else for the next class. Same thing with the defensive secondary, especially at corner.
By the way, at quarterback, let's talk about that as well. You've got several really high recruits Miami's in the mix for. I mean, a couple of the top guys, Jaden Rashada has Miami as a finalist. Right. Dante Moore is a guy Miami is after. These are both, of course, out-of-state kids. Rashada from California. Moore is from Detroit, Michigan. They're also in play for an in-state kid who I think is a little bit underrated at the moment. He's over in the Panhandle, Emory Williams. Like, he's only a 3-star, but I think that probably by the end of the high school season, he could end up being a 4-star, Blue. And I've kind of been told that may be a more realistic option. So what do you think about the quarterback landscape for the next class?
Well, you know me, I'm not one to toot my own horn, but Emory Williams is me. I'm the one that discovered him last summer at the Tallahassee camp.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was the one that put him out before anybody else did.
Wow.
Yeah. And, and I had a lot of coaches call me and ask me about him. I watched him during the summer at a summer camp. His release was unbelievable, had really good size. He threw the ball with a lot of velocity. And then I watched some of his tape, and I know a lot of people in the Pensacola area that had watched him. And I was really on board from the first time I saw him. And when his name started popping up, I had a chuckle a little bit, because all of a sudden, all these people 6 months later, almost 7 months later, were coming up with a guy that I had talked about a year ago, maybe in July of last year. And I'm always in contact with my old friend Frank Ponce, who I think is going to be at the Miami Hurricane, in the Miami Hurricane family for a long time. Very brilliant guy, and somebody who knows how to work with quarterbacks. He's shown it in the past. And he and I talked about Emory early on, and he asked me what I thought, and I told him, and he goes, we're both on the same page. So it shows you that Frank knows what he's doing when he's evaluating talent. And certainly that's a guy, and he's been around. The young man from Detroit, same thing, good size, velocity. Kind of tough, though, when you're getting kids from outside the state that don't know what Miami has, but do, as far as the future, but does examine their roster to see that they're stacked at the position. You got to come in here with the idea that, an injury or two, you're in the mix. And Miami guys are going to, like we're going to see with Van Dyke going into the NFL. Jake Garcia is going to follow him right after, because he's that talented. The young man that they got last year from Valdosta, who is just an amazing, yes, exactly. Yep. Amazing student athlete, who is just all that's separating him from being at that next level is experience. So Miami's got a quarterback room that and I think that they could get Williams, because they started showing him love early on, and he fits more of Miami's offense, like you were just mentioning. Yeah. A good offense where you combine, it's more of a pro offense, and that's what these kids are geared for, because the wishbones, the run pass option type of quarterbacks are not really what the NFL is searching for. So if you could give although these, Kyler Murray and players like that, you can't, turn your back on, but you're looking for that more, that as your friend Tommy Brady, you're looking for more of that NFL type of guy who's going to not only light it up and scan the field, but also uses running backs and, to their full advantage. But yep, I think that those kids, all three of them, are big time talents. Miami also looking at others, but I think if you got to sign one in every class to keep the competitive juices flowing, because after next year you lose arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So then you have to reload, and the pecking order comes up, and your 2 goes to 1, your 3 goes to 2, and so on.
Coming up, we've got a trio of 2 4-stars and a 3-star who I would argue probably has 4-star talent. So I'm going to call it a trio of 4 stars that are visiting the U this weekend. I want to get Blue's take on that. Guys, thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen every day. We are available free wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Friday, June 3rd, visits Blue coming up from 3-star safety Jaden Bonsu, who I think is a little bit underrated at 3-star from what I know about this young man. 4-star edge rusher Tamir Robinson visiting. He's from Pennsylvania. Bonsu, by the way, is from New Jersey. So 3 out-of-state kids coming in. And 4-star offensive tackle from Windsor, Connecticut. I'm going to butcher this young man's name, so maybe you can correct me. Olaus Alinen was what
I've heard. But you're talking 3 guys that are Northeast type of kids.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where, if you remember back, Daniel Stubbs, players of that nature, Greg Mark, Jersey kids, guys from that area. Miami's always done well, with the Northeast kids. These are players that are heavily pursued by everybody. Ohio State's looking at them. Penn State, obviously, they're in Big Ten country. So now with Rutgers in the Big Ten, Miami's, this is where you put your best foot forward, although it's going to rain a little bit. So
Yeah.
you kind of want to, but that's what you have the indoor for. You could take a look at them. They could, caravan around the campus, see what's going on. You get an opportunity to watch them. But all three bring a lot to the table. All three of them would fit this program extremely well. And like I said, Miami's in play for everybody now. Back in the day where a couple of years ago, where they were bringing these kids, it was more just a wish list, but now it's a reality list. And, Mario Cristobal, and no one's going to outgun him for kids. He's going to put the best foot forward at all times. I mean, I know that they really like the kid John Walker from Kissimmee Osceola and players like that. So they put the hard press on him. And, Mario Cristobal is a personality guy. He was the one back in the day when head college coaches could come out in the spring, would show up at a 7-on-7 or that type of tournament, but he would also show up at spring games, and he would come an hour early and leave an hour late and make sure that he talked to everybody and anybody. As you saw in the spring, he endeared himself to the students when he went over and greeted them. It's just the way it is when these kids want love. Yeah, they want to be playing for the national title, but at the same time, they want a program that really cares about them and not just to get them on campus. When Miami, that's the one thing about Mario Cristobal. He'll court you, but once you get on campus and a lot of these schools, and I think he may have learned this from being around Nick Saban. And like I said before, being around Nick Saban, I know a lot of people have their personal thoughts on him, but this is a guy like Bill Belichick that may not be the greatest bedside manner, but they're awfully good doctors. And that's the one thing that Nick did is he endeared himself to the kids when they got on campus. He had gotten their faces, but at the same time, he showed them love when they needed love. And that's what made Mario so successful at FIU. It has made him successful as an assistant in Alabama and also at Oregon, because of the fact that he will show kids that type of love and respect. And that's all they want. That's all they want. And you get them on campus and you're like the father to them for the next 4 years.
Final question. So I mentioned at the top of the episode, right now, and listen, in early June, this doesn't really mean anything, but right now, 5 commits for 2023. Miami's got the 37th rated class in the country. Blue, when the dust settles in February of 2023, when we've gotten through both signing days, will Mario be able to grab a top 10 class, which he did 2 of his 3 full recruiting cycles at Oregon? Do you think Miami's going to have a top 10 class for next year?
Well, they have an opportunity to. And remember, off the bat, they don't have Alabama to play the first game. So Miami could be 3-0, 4-0, or 3-1 after the first 4 games, and that's what's going to happen. These kids are going to start looking, and then they look at the depth chart, and that's how you kind of like look and see who you have. And the next month is going to be extremely important, because you're going to have a chance like this week and the following weeks to get kids on campus, and then the kids have a lasting impression of how things went and said, you know what, I felt really comfortable. And then come October, November, they say, you know what, I'm going to go to Miami because, I know Oklahoma showed me this and Alabama was in the mix, but Miami seems like a place that's growing. So, yeah, I to answer your question, I think they have a really good chance to move in the top 10 to 15. And then next year you increase on it. And within 3 years, you're a top 5 recruiting program, and it takes care of itself. Alabama doesn't have to work real hard to get their kids. Either does Oklahoma, either does Ohio State or Georgia, because everybody knows the end result. They're going to be in the mix, top 5, top 6 team every year. That's all these kids want to do, is they want to compete, but they want to win as well.
Make sure you follow Blue on Twitter. It's at Larry Blustein. Check out his program each and every week, the South Florida High School Sports Show on 560 WQAM in Miami. You can get that on the Odyssey app for those of you out of market. Blue, anything else you want to plug, sir?
No, that's it. I just follow me on our Twitter, Every day we promote kids, and we have a lot of good stories on LarryBlustein.com. A lot of local Dade Broward information, and then our Prep Red Zone Florida, where we do the entire state. And we'll be doing something on Emory Williams and some of the other kids that Miami's targeting over the next 3 weeks. We're headed off to Orlando, then Tampa, Gainesville, and Tallahassee in the next 4 weeks. And like I said, we'll be at Miami plenty. We'll be at FIU. We'll be at we're going to, and you know me, Alex. I mean, I go and see, I can't sit behind a computer all day and watch film and judge kids and their character. The only way you can do is shake their hands, look them in the eye, and watch them play. And that's, at the end of the day, been a really successful part of why I've been doing this now for 52 years.
Absolutely. And wow. So everybody follow Blue. We're going to be back tomorrow, my friends. Tomorrow, I'm going to be revisiting those Kirk Herbstreit comments that I think paid a big contribution in rewriting the future of Miami Hurricanes football when he talked about the lack of alignment and how far we've come since then. So we're going to have a lot of fun on tomorrow's episode. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. Now make your second listen, the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. Rafael Barlow hosts an in-depth look into the biggest prospects, latest player rankings, and of course, big boards. Follow Locked On NBA Big Board every day on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. We will be back tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.